the meeting to order. Tom, would you please call roll?
All right, we have Jeannie Ewan.
Here.
Nick Lovell.
Here.
Stephen Yerger.
Here.
And Donna Bayless is absent.
Okay, rise for the pledge of allegiance in a moment. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is a meeting of the Littlestown Area Board of School Directors. This is a meeting of the board taking place in the public in accordance with the Sunshine Act. District residents who wish to address the board are required to sign up and provide public comment for at least 5 minutes. Prior to the start of the meeting, the public participation will occur only during the designated public comment portion of the agenda. Disruptions, interruptions, outbursts, or disorderly conduct of any kind will not be tolerated. By attending or committing publicly to this meeting, you are consenting to the district recording retention of future viewings of this meeting. This meeting is being live streamed as convenient to the public. In the event the live stream fails or cannot be transmitted for any reason, the in-person meeting will continue without interruption. We do have public comment tonight. We now recognize the members of the public who have signed up to provide comment as stipulated in policy 903. When your name is called, please approach the podium and state your name, confirm that you are a resident or taxpayer in the district, and topic of discussion for the record. Public comment is limited to matters of district business only. Comments that are not relevant to the district business, that is, or may be before the board, will be suspended. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, not to individual board members or administrations, and comments will be limited to 5 minutes or less. The privilege to speak may be interrupted, revoked, or recess of the meeting may be called by the chair if the speaker fails to adhere to board policy or does not observe reasonable decorum and or orderly conduct. Thank you. Bradley.
Right. Good evening. My name is Bradley Kiefer, parent of kids in the school district, taxpayer in this district, and someone who has been coming to these board meetings, not because I enjoy the sound of my voice, but because I have an interest in my kids' education. So I really believe that I can be a useful voice to my neighbors, as well, or as representing my neighbors, but I also just have a pretty good perspective on how to run some of these things. So one of the things that's concerning is, the test scores that we keep bringing up. So the test score results are pretty not impressive at all. Like, from a district perspective, we're celebrating progress, but the progress is still pretty atrocious when compared to like median scores in the state. And I want to translate that to how it reflects on this budget. So as we think about this budget, I want you to understand like what you're actually voting yes for today, because I assume we're just going to rubber stamp this and just move forward, right? So we're not just saying yes for this year, but we have to think about the next 4 years, because math works from a compounding perspective. 2 things I want everybody to understand. Like, this district has a fund balance. Think of it as accumulated savings built up over many years. I know no one's going to admit that they don't know what half this stuff means, but we're going to go through it anyway. So you think about it from a savings account perspective. Within that, there's money that's been formally designated for specific purposes: healthcare reserves, technology, athletics. That money can't be spent without board voting to redirect it. Then there's the unassigned fund balance, $3.3 million, as of last June. No designation, no restriction. This is the district's operational cushion. This is the account that absorbs the annual deficit automatically every year and carries forward cumulatively. It does not reset. When it's gone, it's gone. Your own board policy, Board Policy 620, which this board adopted, requires maintaining that unassigned balance at no less than 5% of the budgeted expenditures. That's approximately $2.2 million. It's not state law, it's just commitment that this board made and to this community and how it would manage the budget. Tonight's plan violates it in year 1 and gets significantly worse from there. Here's the math, using the district's own numbers from the presentation. Tonight's proposal is a 2.5% tax increase. After accounting for the $82,000 in additions that were approved, or that are likely to be approved, alongside the LPN cut, net budget reduction is $2,800 off of a $45 million budget. We're going to obsess over what about the 10 houses that are being built, $60,000 off of a $42 million budget. Again, irrelevant. Year one, $42.6 million in revenue, $44.9 million in expenditures, $2.3 million deficit. That comes out of the unassigned balance, which carries forward to next year at $1 million, already below your own policy minimum of 2.2 after a single year. Year two, another $2.6 million deficit. The unassigned balance goes negative $1.6 million. At that point, the board must formally vote to redirect designated reserves, the healthcare money, tech money, or athletics fund, into day-to-day operation. Money that's promised for something specific that's consumed just to keep the lights on. The district does not go bankrupt, teachers still get paid, but your rating accounts that you set aside for a reason, and it still doesn't fix the structural problem. It delays it by 1 year while depleting everything else you have left. Year three, negative $4.5 million. Year four, $7.4 million in the red. Under the district's own projections, their own cost assumptions, their revenue growth, and their revenue growth rates. I know you're hearing that residents can't absorb a larger tax increase. I live here. It's real for me too. My property value and my income make every dollar of this more painful than many of the people in the room. I'm not standing here advocating for higher taxes because I enjoy paying them. I'm standing here because the alternative to a modestly larger action today is a much larger, more disruptive crisis in 2 years. Taking the full 4.5% Act 1 index increase this year, committing to $1 million in recurring budget reductions over the next couple of years, keeps the fund balance closer to a positive and in a much better position against your own policy. The difference in this tax impact is on a $300,000 home is $81 per year, less than $7 per month. Yes, people are tapped out, but it's easier to absorb gradual change than having to do something dramatic 2 years from now. $7 a month now, or a potential referendum level tax increase of 8 to 10% if it even stops there based off the trajectory of inflation. That's the choice that you're actually making. So I want to say something to this board more directly and say it with respect. For years, the answer to budget requests to this board have just been yes, because the fund balance was healthy enough and it felt like there was room. But reserves are not evidence that everything is fine. They're a buffer and a pattern of spending supported by a healthy cushion without ever addressing the structural gap of how fast costs grow and how fast revenues are growing has produced the moment we're in here tonight. The buffer is almost gone and will be gone if we continue to do what we're doing and approve the budget as presented. My kids' education depends on this institution being financially stable over the long term.
Your 5 minutes are up.
And 3-2.
Steve, I'd like to call Pennsylvania Sunshine Act violation. It doesn't appear that this meeting was advertised in the newspaper. Was it? In the Gettysburg Times? Tuesday it was. Okay. Then I withdraw that. I didn't see it. Thank you.
Right, there's no apparent violation, so it is overruled. Okay. Right.
Well, the TVs are not working right now. If you have your computers, I'll ask.
Mr. Showmaker, while that's updating, whatever, I was just going to make a few preliminary remarks, if that's
Yes,
okay.
go ahead.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Just a couple of things. Again, it's that time of year where we're talking money and finances, and I couldn't agree more. If your finance house is not in order, other things don't fall into place. And having some degree of flexibility and options when you are fiscally sound is always a good place to be. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. I've asked Mr. Showmaker to change strategies a little bit. Historically, he and most other good business managers plan for the worst, hope for the best. This time around, we're going to look at a little bit different model where I'll give you a quick example. When it comes to state subsidy, we're going to go, kind of level funded or maybe a little bit better that we anticipate. When it comes to replacing a teacher, we're not looking at someone with a master's and 30 years. We're going to look at someone that's middle of the road, that type of thing. The past couple of years, because of budgeting that way, sometimes, not always, you end up with a fairly significant surplus. And you move those funds to areas of assigned and unassigned fund balances in certain areas. And we have some of that gives us some options that we can deal with. I would also say, as a result of that, and a number of other things that have happened along the way that I've learned over the past 8 months, Mr. Showbaker has done one heck of a job of investing funds that we've had available to us, or the picture that we're looking at now could be a whole lot worse if it weren't for those prudent moves. So I'm very happy about that. The other thing that I would just say is that we have a unique position here at Littlestown where we have a business department that are Littlestown grads. Tom and his wife both graduated from Littlestown. His mom has made a career out of teaching at the high school. I think it was high school mathematics. And he has kids that in a blink of an eye are going to be going through this school system. So he is passionate about wanting us to be on good fiscal ground and so on. So what I've asked him to do with the various scenarios that we're going to be looking at, Mr. Showbaker, in your opinion, if we do this, what are the consequences? And if we do this, what are the consequences? Where can we find the funds, or where can we make adjustments that would be the least amount of detrimental impact on student programs and services? And I don't think there's anyone more qualified here or passionate about wanting us to be in a good position than Mr. Showbaker to make that happen. The other thing that I would just say, and I don't mean to sermonize to people that already are very much aware of this, the vast majority of the budget is mandated or contracted obligations. And some of those obligations were made by this board, some were made by previous boards, whether it be a teacher contract or an Act 93 agreement, or a major construction situation where we're consolidating schools and we're adding on. And again, it's going to be beautiful in the end for our kids and this community, but it does cost. You just don't pull a rabbit out of the hat and so on. So with that in mind, strategically, I'd just like you to think about that a little bit. And as Tom, is this thing updated or is it?
Just that screen.
With that, I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to Mr. Showbaker. And I think this approach might be something that the board, compared to maybe in the past, might appreciate a little bit more. Tom, it's all yours.
Thanks, Al. So yes, we looked at that quite extensively from the last meeting, and that's what some of this will showcase. And then further presentations will fine tune based off of conversations tonight and so forth. And we will keep refining that until the committee and the board is in agreement to what the budget looks like and when it's moving forward. So the first slide here I have is a recap from last time. So this is what the snapshot of the budget looked like about a month ago, back on April 7th. So we were looking at about $45 million in expenses and $41.5 million in revenues. That's led us to about $3.44 million in a deficit. What led to that large deficit was a lot of the obligations that were required here as a school district. So the autism classroom we are looking to bring back in-house away from the LIU, along with their new rate schedule that increases those costs. We talked about cyber school tuition, where you're still trying to catch back up to where our expectations are on cyber school. In 24-25, we missed that mark, so we're still trying to fine-tune that. Obviously, we're not an exception to utility costs or inflation or contracted services having yearly increases. So that is some inflation in there. And then obviously ECTI tuition, which was approved at April's meeting, had some increase in that for those tuition costs. So those are just a recap from last time, what kind of led to that. We looked at a lot more than that, but those are just some of the few items. So we're going to get into what changed in about a month. So a lot's changed. Recently, we just locked in our healthcare renewal. That was a great advantage for the district here. We're self-funded, so we get to go out and market and be able to leverage that. We anticipated 10%, and we were actually originally advised that it could be closer to 12%. Well, they worked hard and they got it down to just under a 7% increase. That saved the district about $234,000. So that was a great savings that was unexpected for the upcoming budget. And that will continue to move forward through subsequent years. Now that this one payment lesson, we will continue to optimize that moving forward. What we also did was, as Dr. Maury talks about, we optimized some support staff. So originally I said we always put forward in for family benefit coverage. We have now moved that down to employee only. That is the minimum level that somebody can have other than opting out of our insurance. So we moved those down to the lowest possible level of benefits. That's captured in that healthcare renewal number, so I don't have a number there associated. One of the conversations was to add in Mayberry and project their costs forward. So around 10 homes a year, and the average assessed value is $450,000. That gets us just shy of $60,000 this year, and then that every year moving forward will compound into there. One of the things that hit the budget was as I review everything, I'm tracking costs at the end of the year. One thing I noticed was I missed a number that should have been in the last time in the budget for transportation costs. Working with Laura, we realized that she had two numbers in the line and I only captured one. So we worked through that and we realized with the increase in routes that she put in her budget narrative and with the non-clubs and special needs going up, that impacted the budget in a negative aspect and increased it by $200,000. So between the contractual increases plus some of those route changes and just something we missed as we continue to look forward, that impacted the budget this time around as well. So
Can we, it's now a good time for questions on the transportation?
yeah, we can.
As we just, so there's, the routes are going, we're increasing the number of routes, you said?
So the regular route, due to increased kids on buses, routes get changed over time as too many kids that have a route on a bus, they get edited and added in route. And so there is a additional regular route. Plus we have more Amish families that live in our communities that need to be transported to non-publics. They need an additional route next year with their accommodating new kids. And as always, special needs is variable every year. But this year we had higher than anticipated costs in special needs than we originally anticipated. Those are more than likely going to continue forward as kids get placed further and further away as those availabilities come fewer and fewer between. So we had one student that went as far as Yellow Breaches, that costs us a lot more money to transport kids a lot farther. And that's becoming more and more of a reality. So that's what impacted plus the contractual increase. And Laura had that was just a mistake on mine that I missed that. She had it as two. I assumed it was a cumulative one and it was two separate lines.
So, like, what are our bus capacity levels?
That I can't answer right now. I don't have that. Well, I can gather that for Tuesday's meeting if that's a request.
Yeah. Or it could be here, maybe that would be a good discussion. That's a big add.
Well, I think it was already going to be a chunk of that just naturally that I missed, but there's some other ones that just that's part of that contract.
Do you have a question on the 80,000 utility increase? How much of the middle school do we have to keep open until we sell it? Whatever we do?
That is up to the board when we go to decide what happens to the middle school once it's vacated.
I mean, you can't just turn off water and electricity and stuff, can you? You can't do that.
Could you winterize it?
There's a minimum level of heat and utilities will have to keep if it's a district-owned property. Yes. The same thing with contracts, make sure it's also operational.
So that 80,000 increase, what is that?
That is for electric and water.
I mean, but does that include
And
the
natural
middle school
gas.
as is, or?
That is off of our rates going up for next year, and yes, using those levels. Right now, we anticipate with the middle school going offline and the high school being there, those levels are going to be somewhat in a neutral capacity until we
you think the spike had something to do with all the construction going on and the extra, power that was necessary?
So
And the lights.
Lights.
the construction one was pulled out in a separate and used construction funds to pay for that. So yes, there was a cost to that, but not captured in here. This is solely increased electric costs that we have for renewals every year for our electric rates that increase up. The same thing with natural gas and our water and sewer. Just like everybody else in the community had higher water and sewer, we use that for our water as well. Install some of those higher. So yeah, some of that's also with the increase in sprinklers and some of this sees some extra increase in costs. And yes, to your point, once we get alleviate the middle school, that could change looking at the future budget afterwards. We don't have enough information to pull any of that out at the moment. Which we can keep the middle school for an extended period of time.
And just to clarify from the transportation, so that 200,000 is in addition to the budget narrative number?
Yes, correct. So, as was spoken, what's the new assumptions on staffing? So we looked at, we currently have 2 vacancies, so we moved the autism support, the autism support teacher to a B1 and a single rate coverage within the budget numbers. And we also moved the current vacancy for learning support, that's a teacher vacancy, to basically the middle of the step placement, which is master's year 8 and family coverage. And then any vacancy moving forward, we would kind of follow the same logic, go back to a B1, if there'd be a 4th one, we could do master's plus 8, and that's kind of the thought process moving forward, that we would keep doing those as those vacancies came up, would be more in line with what reality might be when somebody comes in to be hired. So those are just the assumptions that we've made to reflect these new numbers and what's impacted the budget since the last one. So we're going back into the options we showed this last time. This is just a refresher of what that looks like. So was asked to show what a 4.5%, which our maximum affluent index would look like. Last time we proposed 3%, and then what essentially a half. We could do 2.25 if that's what we wanted. I'm a proponent of nice round numbers of 2.5%. So that's where that one came in as the half step between the maximum and 0% for that. So those are those options there. And when one is selected, we will then, like I said, fine tune to show what that individual outcome will be. So I have 3 different scenarios on how we look at revenue. So the 3 scenarios we're looking at how we look at revenue was, we talked about the governor's proposal from the state. That hangs in balance every year. We don't know what that's going to look like here locally. This past year, it wasn't until I think November we received that money and knew what was going to happen. The state's tasked every year to have that by June 30th. Unfortunately, in this most recent 4 or 5 years, they have not met that mark. So I have scenario A, which is the full governor's proposal, that we get every dollar that was proposed. The middle scenario B is we get exactly half. And scenario C is what I showed last time, is hold harmless. That we get $0 in addition to what we got last year. Now the additional assumption is that we have a 0% tax increase here to show what the lowest level of revenues would be in each of those scenarios. Obviously, if we locally raise taxes, that would increase those revenues and change those projections. But instead of having 15 different scenarios and showcasing those and having some confusion, I just picked one and we will fine tune them, like I said, moving forward. So as you can see in scenario A, the full governor's proposal, it jumps down to a $2.77 million deficit, which leaves our ending fund balance from the 3.3 that we have to just over $500,000. The half scenario is essentially half of that, and then moving forward is the whole harmless. So those are just the 3 different scenarios, and I'm going to pause there and I guess ask the committees basically what they don't have to recommend now, but which way they're leaning towards, so we can start fine tuning this forward on this. And then we're going to pivot and look at the handouts I have that I'll put up on the screen after some discussion on that. But that's just kind of the scenarios, and we'll just have some discussion on that and some direction on which one of these scenarios, because each one, like I said, drastically changes the projection moving forward.
Is it policy that we have a 5%?
We maintain between,
unbalanced?
it's
Savings.
encouraged, it's not obviously a requirement that we have that, but it's worded that strongly encouraged. Most school districts put that in place because it helps when we go out to bond, or when we go out to, receive bonds to pay for debt service, stuff like that. We have a better rating if we have that in place and we follow that.
Just because of that language.
Yeah, so the board then obviously has to follow their policy, and they would look at two things. That's what the policy says. They would look at raising taxes and reducing expenditures until they would get back to that 5%. They would be a combination of one or both to get there.
Judy, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I just, so you had absolutely no budget cuts at all, in your expenses, you didn't?
No additional ones than we identified the last time. Yes, obviously, sorry, yes, we did. We had the healthcare,
Other than that, I mean, line by line, you're telling me there's no budget cuts at all.
not at the moment. I mean, we don't have to make a decision right now. We can go through some of these, and maybe that'll clarify it some more. So we can go through some of these handouts. So with the handout, I would just preface that it is under scenario A. Like I said, I didn't want to have too many to confuse. Let me see if I can pull this up. For everybody to see. So the board has it in front of them on this before. So we're going to start with the one that says expenditures and revenues. So we're just going to look at this quickly to see what the changes are. This is to follow some of the requests. Dr. Moore, that you proposed today to showcase the differences between salary benefits and the budget constraints. So on the expenses sheet, I have it listed between salary benefits down through the object codes and comparing current year budget 25-26 to next year's budget 26-27, and showing what those differences are. So within salary benefits, we have $778,000 in that difference, which is around 3% difference in growth, which equates to essentially those contractual obligations that we spoke of with the CBA and Act 93 and support staff agreements. Professional services, you see the large chunk of that would be the IU that we talked about, the 261,000 that raised that to get to the 332,000 that's different. The property services, we have a slight decrease. Transportation and tuition, we talked about the two biggest things are our transportation routes and cyber charter school. What's also in there is ACTI and any outside placements we have for students. That's also captured in that tuition. So that's our largest increase outside of salary benefits, is where how kids get here or where they're placed at. You can see the supplies are a slight increase, equipment we go down through, and debt and principal interest, they will ping pong exactly down and exactly up relative to keep that level funding within that payment cycle.
What are the increases in equipment?
So equipment, so one would be what we're going to talk about later, would be that mower. Some of it's also with athletics. So some of those are those additions that are shown in here, and we'll get to those. And figure out what the committee wants to do, but right now, this is, everything that's on the presentation is within these numbers. So that's just the expense side, that shows what those expenses are and the differences, and obviously the percentage differences from this year compared to last year, and the same thing with revenue. And you can see the difference, the big difference is we're only seeing, if you look at the very bottom, you guys flip it over, you have it double-sided. I won't go down through them all for revenue. The biggest thing to note is even with the governor's proposal and 0%, the expenses are shown as an increase of 4%. Revenues are only showing an increase of 3.6%. That keeps showing that our revenues are being outpaced by our expenditures, even with the full brunt of the state giving us all that money.
Why are we comparing, next year's budget to this year's budget rather than?
To show the growth of what growth there is. We can show it in a different fashion if you'd like, if you want to see it as
It would have been nice to see the, actual from last year and then this year's budget and actual where we are now annualized.
So I did give that to the committee, it's just not with these new updated
Yeah,
numbers.
it's just
So we
nice
can,
to see what we're doing.
I can certainly send that out, that's easy enough to compile up. This was just to show what those numbers look like and where these differences are coming into. Like I said, we can see 4% for expenditure growth, 3.6% right now has a revenue growth under a 0% tax increase with the full state coming in. This last graph here, the circle graph, plays into what percentage of the budget do these expenditures equal to. So salary and benefits are 63% of our budget, with debt service being 9.5%. Those are our two largest items, along with the tuition costs like we talked about, it's ACTI, it's outside placements, it's cyber charter school. Those tuition costs are all obligations and state mandated costs. So that eats up most of our budget here at Littlestown, along with the IU and transportation. Then we start getting out farther out, and you can see we have utilities, fuel, general liability insurance, our contractual obligations, custodial, substitutes, and then we always have our tax collectors, attorneys, auditors, stuff the board has, or we have to have as a district, or we need to have to function. What's remaining is around 5%. What's in that 5%? That's basically professional services that aren't covered under a contractual obligation. A lot of times we hire professionals that help us, trainings, repairs, software and supplies, there's equipment, dues, such like having tournaments or athletics, being part of professional organizations. All that's in that mix at the very bottom, which is around 5% of that, kind of not predetermined, or the board has said we want to manage these things. So this is where these go into play to show what the district is looking at and how we come about to make these budgets, and show where our obligations are and how much they actually impact the district when we approve these items. So I just want any questions or clarification, I guess, of what's in front of you. I'll have it posted for everybody else to review tomorrow. I just didn't have it.
Yeah, I have a question. So
Yeah.
the delinquent real estate per capita,
Yes.
so we're projecting to collect less of that, so is that because we collected some of it this year already?
No, we have been trending down. The 425,000 has been steady around that amount every year. This past 2 years, we've been closer to 400,000. So we've been trending slightly down over the past several years. And now every year we look at that and say, now the trend's actually starting to trend closer to 400,000. So that's why we're moving it down to 400,000. If next year it jumps back up, so a prime example would be, if you look at 6151 for EIT, we had budgeted $5 million because that was our kind of static. Then we jumped to 5.2, and now that's kind of our static. And we maintain those every year. Sometimes it's usually a year lag until we can accommodate those in a budget cycle.
Can you those two? That's 6411 and 6420?
So 6411 is anybody who would be a delinquent on their real estate property tax. So these could be any property that misses the deadline to pay their taxes, to incur a penalty, and it would be called delinquent, and then they would pay such their real estate tax after the collection period.
So
The same thing with their per capita. If you get a $10 tax if you're home for per capita, if you would just perhaps miss it and miss the window when it's due, then it becomes delinquent, then it gets recorded as a delinquency rather than a regular per capita.
So the full thing is reported is that, not just the penalty. So
Correct.
we're not collecting 400,000 in penalties, we're collecting 200,000 total.
Yes, and these could be from any year that is delinquent from. These can span over many years that it's accumulated delinquency every year and incurred a fee every year, and then perhaps it was a building that now gets bought and renovated, they pay the delinquent taxes and we receive that money backwards. That tax, that property accumulates that tax until it gets paid off. That is the county. So Adams County and York Adams Tax Bureau work together to do that, and along with a collection agency we use here is JP Harris. Three of those. Once it's out of current window, the district is no longer a part of it. It gets all sent to the county after December, and they handle all that collection and fees. Those funds for us, and then they issue us the check minus their fees to collect that back to us.
The other local revenue,
Yes.
what's the projected increase?
That would have been the bus sale from last year. So we had a bus sale that wasn't captured in that. We don't have a bus sale this year. So that's the major difference in that other revenue.
In the sale of a fixed asset?
Yep. So those would be together. The same thing if we have municipal bids would be in the other revenue. So all that's kind of captured back and forth between those two.
And so we always put the projected land sales and stuff like that in the budget?
If we know enough time, yes.
I thought
So, like-
those one-offs were typically.
So like the land sale that's upcoming potential is not in here at the moment. And if it is, it would be shown as a transfer to capital reserve because that's what the board, unless they direct me otherwise, was to be moved for the athletic baseball softball. Yeah, so if we would have those land sales, it would show, but it would also show in the expense side because it's being transferred out of the general fund.
I just didn't know that we put those one-time revenues and stuff like that in the budget.
If we know enough ahead of time. Normally there's one-offs, we don't know enough information ahead of time to know it's gonna be in there. So the example would be, so like even interest earnings, we can't project interest earnings. Some of those are one-offs because we got way more than expected, which happened last year. The land sale, we weren't sure that when it was gonna go through, so I didn't put it in because we weren't sure if it was gonna be this year or next year based off how real estate development and everything processes. Okay, so we'll move forward. So moving forward, we're going to look at projections. This is just scenario based. So these two scenarios that I'm going to have are going to be around the full governor's proposal and half governor's proposal. We looked at the 0%. I think last time we'll show a different scenario this time so we can get a different perspective. So this is looking at the full governor's proposal as we talked about and a 2.5% increase here locally. That moves our deficit from 2.7 down to 2.3 with raising that. And you can see the assumptions that were made. Some of the differences would be up into a 1% tax or assessed value growth per the Mayberry. That took us from about a 0.5, 0.6 up to closer to that 1%. So we moved that into a 1% tax increase. You can notice I have 2.5% shown throughout to show what that compounding effect does if we maintain those levels. The same thing with some of these. I moved based off the conversation last meeting. I had a 5% healthcare growth. We were showing 10. This year we showed just shy of 7 to be in that middle ground without showing that 5. We moved it to 8% to show that. The same thing with transportation growth. We put right in the middle of the projected either 2.5 to 4.5 per contract, and we project that out. So that came out with all new numbers. You can see with the full governor's proposal, it's around 700,000, 750,000 we get from that governor's proposal. That is added every year for the next 4 years. So it's added to 26, 27. It's then taking that base with the 700,000, adding an additional 700,000, and again to show that we're getting $700,000 from the state every year, in addition to the prior year for the next 4 years. It's also showing that we have a 2.5% increase here locally for the next 4 years. What the thing is to note is that the deficit continues to grow even in this 4-year span because our expenses are still projected to outpace our revenues. We're looking at it, it's still a 3%, closer to a 4%. What is happening though, we show this, that compounding effect is the deficit from year to year, which is that year-to-year difference, is getting less and less. And at some point, if we would continue down this trajectory, we would start seeing that go the opposite way, and we would have the deficit come down. Now, we just, in this 3-year snapshot, we can't see that unless other factors change these numbers as we see today. And we look at what that scenario looks like under, if we only receive half the money from the state, and what that projection looks like forward. So you can see it's exact same, some assumptions, exact same forward, a slight different tweak in the calculations or how much money we receive. Obviously the expenditures are static because it's under the same assumptions. The revenue slightly changes. You can see we go from 2.9 as our deficit here in 2030 to 4.1. So you can see the drastic compounding effect, either not raising taxes or raising taxes, or not receiving state money or receiving state money, and how those projections affect every year. And that's how we budget every year. With new information, we create new models that then project forward. So this is, like I said, for discussion, for modeling. If you have a different one we want to look at, we can create a different one to show. You want to see 0, you want to see 3, you want to see 4. The problem is we don't know what the index is going to be in the out years. The IFO, the fiscal office that projects that out, is showing we will see a somewhat static declining maximum index for the next few years to get closer to our normal baseline around 3 to 3.5%. And that's that projection forward that comes out every year. So we'll move forward here. So what's some items that we still need to address? So to Jeannie's point, there's still some stuff that's either in or out of the budget that hasn't been officially determined by the committee or the board about what direction we're in. So one, that's been a topic for many years, we currently have no additional ACTI funding for their debt service. Currently, we only have 180 shown in the budget from the prior year's 1% raise. So we don't have any additional funds put towards ACTI future debt service. So that would be, if the board wants, that would actually add an expense in to show that. One thing we also don't have is what homestead farmstead impact is. Right now it's at a net neutral number. The past 3 years they've had increased funding to homestead farmstead, which equates to more savings here per qualified taxpayer. We won't get that, it doesn't get certified until tomorrow by the state. When we do that, then I'll run the calculations and be able to see what the estimate is per home that qualifies. So we can look at that and see what that has. The past couple of years has been close to a 1% decrease for property owners here that qualify. And then number 3 here is the additions or reductions that are shown within the budget. So the last time we requested, I'm not sure, can't remember, I don't know if we got into this fully, was Continue Howie, who is a contracted maintenance, retired maintenance director that's been helping here at the district to help with Victor's time. I talked with Dr. Moyer about it again. We believe here at the district, his expertise and value is extremely needed here for this summer through the transition of moving students and staff from the middle school to the high school. Being the retired, like I said, retired facilities director, he knows the ins and outs of what needs to be done, has the forethought to do those, and has been, like I said, an asset for the district. So that's still maintaining requests. The same thing with the zero-turn mower. I know this is an addition to our fleet, but every day we've had every available personnel on every mower we have possible mowing our grounds because we just can't keep up and maintain the fields for athletics and for the spaces. So that was an additional request to add to his fleet, so one extra person from his maintenance and grounds crew could mow. The same thing with athletics. So we had a high jump pad. What's new and different is a recent request is a lacrosse, which we'll hear some more about that from Jeff. So I'm not going to go into super detail tonight. I'm sure he's going to want to present some of that. But a lacrosse co-op and or girls wrestling, which he has presented on, that is creating a lot of traction, and we feel that there is probably potential to add a girls wrestling team here at the district. So those added in addition to, and on the opposite side, I think one of the things that we did get 100% is the LPN reduction. So is that staying out of the budget and being reduced moving forward? So that's the additional request from the committee about which of these options, if any, are in or out of the budget. As I said earlier, all are shown as a reported on the screen within the numbers I presented and or in the handouts I provided.
The ACTI, we have 700,000 saved right now.
Yes, that is correct. So in our
And then we're adding 180 a year.
yes.
So that was a land sale for 700,000.
So that was part of the surplus that the district had at the end of the year for 24-25. We used some of that surplus to add additional funds to ACTI.
We had 180, we had two.
Yeah, so we would have had about 360. We had additional funds. I requested to use some of those additional funds to put aside for a land purchase in the event ACTI has a land purchase, so that we had
Correct.
money available to buy that. In addition to their tuition, some of their tuition.
So what is that total?
So right now, currently, of 700,000, the board can determine if they want to use all 700,000 for land, or what portions of it. That's a board's discretion to designate any of those funds to that.
I'm just asking.
Yes.
It's 700,000 plus 180 times.
Well, 180 is in our current budget to fund any debt service.
Isn't that part of the land sale purchase?
Right now, we would do all land sale would come through as our assigned fund balance portion. Anything within the budget would be for next year's ACTI. If something would happen, if they would start building that 180 that used towards the debt service.
So it's just two boxes that we're putting, okay.
So the board can determine if the whole 700,000 is available for land, if 100,000, if none, that's up to the board to decide. It's just earmarked for ACTI. I just know that the land purchase is going to come, and that's where we try to designate it first. I know Dr. Moore and I are both kind of looking for some, at least to narrow down the selections so that we can then present, because in May at the vote session, there will have to be at least a proposed budget. By no means is it final, and the board has every opportunity to change it, but we do have to have it approved to sit for 30 days by state code. So we do have to have a direction in what I need to present to the full board so they can understand what's in or what's out of the budget, what we're recommending, what we're not recommending as the financing.
Gettysburg took the strategy of proposing the full index, knowing full well we're hoping we don't need to go there, but things do change over as they've changed from the last time Tom has talked to you to now. But it was a not to exceed number of the index, and then hopefully it's going to be something hopefully smaller than that. but it buys us that extra month of time and allows us to follow the budgetary timeline. Because once it goes, it's got to be 30 days, I believe, right, Tom?
Public inspection for 30 days, so,
Before June 30th.
yeah.
Right.
So right now, our board schedule meets, when it's approved, if it's approved in the May work vote session, it's pretty much exactly 30 days to the next vote session to approve the June one, or to approve the final budget in the June meeting.
I would just share just a couple quick things. Mrs. Ewan asked earlier about any additional cuts. We had extensive meetings with every department, and I will frankly tell you the low-hanging fruit disappeared pretty quick. And I will also give credit to our leadership team for coming in very, very reasonably, at least compared to situations that I'm familiar with. I do think with the enormous move that's going to have to make right at the end of the school year, with consolidating our schools and getting everything over there that has to be done, along with the other normal maintenance and whatnot, Mr. Halley would be invaluable to making sure that that happens and happens in a timely manner and happens with fidelity and quality. I don't know a lot of, there's more to come from our athletic director regarding any co-op with, lacrosse and the high jump pit. I have not seen that. I was a former high jumper 100 years ago, and I'm sure whatever we have now is a whole lot better than when I was doing that. But so I have not inspected that personally, but I do know if Jeff is telling us that it's at the end of the life, he has a lot of credibility with me. And then obviously we've got to keep the facilities maintained and the grass mowed, and the zero turns have been invaluable.
They just bought one.
That was a replacement one for one that died.
Which I thought that this one was supposed to be too,
Yeah.
but now it sounds like it's just an addition.
Yeah,
So-
that might have been my mistake.
My thought on this is going to be influenced by the previous slides, like the full government affairs proposal slide.
Yep.
You said with if we were to raise taxes 2.5% every year and get $700,000 additional from the state every year, the deficit would still grow because our expenses are outpacing revenues.
Correct.
That's if we raise taxes every year, and if the state gives us $700,000 every year. So that's two big revenue increases every year. So with those projections, we have an expense problem. We're going to have to take a really hard look at cuts, at where we're going to cut from the budget, because again, that's not sustainable to tax increase every year with projected state
So-
increases.
This is just a modeling. I don't disagree that there is going to be, just like we did this year, we'll realize some attritional things every year as we move forward and as a district moves forward. I'm saying is, at this point in time, there is no additional attritional cuts that we can make unless the board directs us, gives us options of where they would wish to see those cuts be made. We don't have any we looked at. There is none that we can do without board direction.
I think we need to keep an eye on if our enrollment keeps declining and we keep our school district the size that it is, that doesn't make sense.
And that's something we've looked at and we've monitored for several years, and we're going to continue to monitor. And as those positions become available and we feel that those attritions are without impact to students and student success, then we offer those up as part of budgetary, just like we did with the LPN. We identified that. We would continue to do that every year as part of my job, and to offer those up with superintendent direction as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have a long history here, but that's part of the strategy by evacuating the middle school and consolidating and going to a 7 to 12 grade configuration. I'm sorry, not 7, 6 to 12. great configuration.
And I do think we'll realize those, I just don't think we're there yet because of the consolidation. Until we can get that there and we can see, like we talked about, we have reduced until that funnels through the district, we can't realize some of those attritions as we sit today. Will they happen in the future? I can't answer that, but we'll look at those moving forward. This was just to show what constraints we have here as a district and what's happening even under these modest assumptions. And next month, these assumptions could change based off of updated information, just like we do every month. We can update this, something could impact or decrease based off of the colleagues in Harrisburg and what they mandate from us within this budget season, within their budget season, or what they fund or don't fund. And that could change the dynamic. So I try to give it updated information as much as I have. I just finalized this yesterday at 3:45, so it's the most current information I have to provide the committee.
Well, based on this, everything on the last slide is out for me.
Okay. So both the addition is out and the reduction remains, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Are you talking about slide number 9?
Yeah.
Just for clarification, right? So all the additions are out and the reduction stays out.
Did you say the, maintenance contract with Howie was for 6 months?
Correct. It would go through, so his contract technically ends June 20th. This would extend it till December 20th, I believe.
But the move's gonna be for summer.
Correct, but some of that, so yes, over the summer, and then to get those kids in will probably take, plus we have those construction projects that he's been helping with that allows Victor to designate his time to micromanage essentially those contractors and get the product we want.
But we're not gonna have constructing, the project's gonna be done, right?
We're gonna have the grant work, if something comes about with athletics, we'll have athletic work.
Doesn't look like anything's gonna come out with athletics, not with those, bids.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, that's another thing that we're gonna have to look at.
We can
fact that,
drop that down if you want
Well,
to
the
just
fact-
be.
the fact that the bids came in so high, and on the athletics, we already rejected those bids. We have a board member that's gracious enough to donate a lot of the work, the scaled down work that we're looking to do. So that project, I mean, we need to look at that money for that project, going back towards
I plan on having
offsetting taxes.
more information on the athletic as a whole. On Tuesday, we have some meetings scheduled both tomorrow and Monday to meet Dr. Moyer's schedule. So I'm hoping to have more information to present Tuesday, and that'll be some of the focus on Tuesday's meeting. Will be athletics and some other additional items that just aren't budget related. This one is solely to focus on the budget.
If we rejected all the bids, then what more are you gonna present us with?
So like, as was stated, we did have a board member reach out and do work, just update the board of what that is and what we are trying to address otherwise in the short term.
That looks like a significant number of value of that volunteer and that effort. So that is a significant contribution.
So we're gonna look at that and see what that, and what we're recommending, I guess, moving forward is also to say, bids came in high, where do we go from here, and what's the recommendation moving forward? We weren't talking about tonight because this was a budget focused meeting to try to catch back up some of those couple months we would have had to progress this. We have to have something approved in May. So
we have that money from that land sale that we're gonna go for that.
currently it's in capital reserve. The next land sale will be up, where they want to continue to move that, or if they want to keep it in training. So we heard from Nick, I guess, the other.
Yeah, I need to hear from you, Jean. What do you think?
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
With Howie, he's overseeing a lot of student volunteers in this effort, painting and all that.
He will be used in all kinds of manners. So yes, he'll help with painting, he'll help with the custodial crew, he'll help with moving, grass
He'll be
mowing.
painter.
He's essentially,
The
yes.
teachers
Yeah,
don't
the lead
oversee
painter
painting.
is overseeing.
Yes. But his expertise will also facilitate some of that lead painter direction.
Okay, so
He basically is a jack of all trades because he's been doing it for a long time. with Fairfield is where Fairfield School District where he's retired from. So he was Victor for Fairfield, so he knows, like I said, what needs done and can do that stuff ahead of time essentially. So yes, he's been an invaluable asset for us here.
If he's not there, does the job not get done?
It always has to get ready for school. I think it just takes a lot longer and a lot longer hours for it to get done.
So
We could
longer
run.
hours.
We can run. Yeah, we
Longer to
can.
get done. I'm sorry.
Yep.
If it takes longer to get done and it takes more hours, does that figure surpass this figure?
That I can't answer because I don't know. It could go
It's no
into the
increase
school
there.
year timeframe. Essentially, we may not be able to get all the things done before the start of the school because of all the movement of staff from middle school to high school, along with our normal clean that needs to be done. We still have contractors in the building who are kicking dust and dirt around that are still doing miscellaneous items. So like that is just having one extra hand actually, just goes a long way in this thing. Like I said, especially, I can't say enough, especially with Howie and his capability and what he can do.
I'm just trying to understand that, there's been a plan to get this all done. There's been labor allocated, construction, this, that, all kinds of projections on schedules. And it seems that Howie will accelerate something, but is it absolutely necessary? Is it, you guys are making the recommendation, and we're just trying to figure out how to pay for it. So,
So how about just July and August for the move?
We can look at that.
I think that we should also remember that Victor was given a full-time administrative assistant for the duration of the project.
That's true.
So I think that has something to do with the maintenance department needs.
I would say from from a admin assistant perspective, but not necessarily the work within the building perspective. So
Right.
Victor does it as
I think it would free up a little bit of his time.
Right, that was the point of it, was to free up his time.
correct, but he's still managing the contractors that are still on site, that are still gonna be here, plus all the staff. That's what's taking up the most time. That's why we had Howie in the first place, because he couldn't have enough time, even with the admin assistant, to do all that. That's why Howie was here.
so how is money ran out and you're asking for more?
He was only allotted to end on June 20th. We were requesting to extend him beyond that.
So he was
Yes.
never meant to be part of the move over the summer.
I think based off of Howie's tenure here over the past 2 years and what he's been able to accomplish, that's part of that request.
You just need to answer.
Yeah.
I would consider, during the summer, but not all the way through December, so I would like to see that number.
So run through August from the start of school, so
Yeah.
August 31st.
Right, or however long the move is gonna take, the 31st.
So that's-
The zero driver to me, they just bought one, so no.
So that would be 10,000, July and August.
10,000 for 2 months?
That's, if you take the 6 months divided by,
All right, you're right, it is.
Okay, so now where you said was no?
Athletics, so the high jump pad was originally 17, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 17. Or no, sorry, it's 15. Yes.
Yeah. I don't agree with doing the additions for things that he's just thinking about, like lacrosse and wrestling, because that's, he has to come with like a floor plan or anything like that.
So he will, so we just wanted to showcase it, that this is upcoming, and to show what the cost will be upcoming. We will have additional information, you can make a fully informed decision. It was mostly to show you what the showcase is, and if you were completely completely against it at this point, we would not send people. That was kind of the concept. I talked to Dr. Morales, to keep it in, do we get it out? It was more or less to showcase it tonight, we'll get more information later. If you're totally against it, we would not proceed with providing more information.
Normally you like survey the students and see how many would even be interested.
Which we did. So if you remember girls wrestling, he did survey, he had open gyms.
In that situation, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at the possibility of co-oping with Gettysburg School District. And for those 5 to 7 students that were, Gettysburg has had experience with co-opting. They're currently co-opting with Fairfield for football. And they do a prorated per student expense that they will calculate for us. But that would allow those students that are passionate about lacrosse to be able to compete in a sport that they love without us having the expense of a full team. And I don't think we have the numbers to support a full team.
And if you remember when Shelley Young was here, she researched this the year prior to she left. She was just, we didn't get a co-op going. The districts decided not to because Gettysburg was newly going with Fairfield. They didn't want to have too many going up front. Other districts declined us. So now this year was another opportunity. We just received word this week that they are now willing to progress that forward if we want to accept. So that was a brand new item, I believe, just this week. Do you even hear about that?
Oh, yeah, I keep it a budget.
Okay. And then what about the additions? Nick said out for all and out for the reduction. Jeannie says let's investigate Howie for 2 months. Melwer's out. Athletics, I assume Jeannie paused until more information. We said the same thing with Jeannie. Okay, so we'll present with Howie reduction down, LPN out, zero turn Miller out, athletics, I will pull out to put to the side, so the numbers moving forward will reflect them out until we get further information we can put back in. That's agreed from the committee.
That makes it helpful to be able to.
So we'll pull them out. The secondary decision we need to see is, there's 2 things. A, do we showcasing the full budget, or the full state's allocation within the budget to be presented in May? Or are we moving forward with a half? Are we moving forward with harmless? In addition to that, are we moving forward with any tax increase being shown, or multiples, or variabilities of any of those in between?
What typically, Tom, has been the trend of what we get out from the state compared to the governor's proposed budget?
Typically, we internally like to say, he asked, what's the
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Like really low.
What is the typical trend that we receive from the state compared to the governor's proposed budget?
I would say anywhere from 70 to 80% is typically when the final budget's passed. Now, this year, we know that House has already passed the governor's budget, I believe, at his standard levels. I would say that historically it never makes it through both houses. If it would have, it would have already done so by now. I'm assuming the Senate will then change that. Don't know how drastic, but anywhere from 60 to 80% on any given year, depending on how high the request is from the governor.
And this is seemingly a little bit lower than the last 2 years.
I would say it's in line with the addition we got from this year. So 24-25, we got a big jump, which was unexpected, but 24-25 to 25-26 current year was around the same amount that he's proposing for next year. So he's now kept the same increase moved forward with that increase. So around 750,000 we received this year, will probably, that's what he's proposing for next year.
So would that be reasonable to assume that?
I would say it passed the House, we could showcase it. That's up to the board. Business manager, like we said, we like to be conservative and show the whole harvest because that's the least amount that we would ever get. As Dr. Moore said, we'll go half, we'll go full, we'll go none. It's up to the board to kind of direct us to see which one they want to be modeled and presented.
I think like 60-70%.
70%. And then what about any local or scenarios of local? Showcase anywhere from 0 to 4.5%. You can pick essentially.
For next week, for Tuesday.
This would be so I can compile the stuff for the work session to present to the full board.
Well, before we get to that, do we have anything else we wanna talk about?
That's what this meeting's here to fine tune. Tuesday we can have a little bit of time. I just won't have a lot of time. We're trying to do in-depth analysis because I won't have enough time to get all the numbers. So we have slight tweaks, and we want to look at it from a high level what that impact is. So like these decisions we made, what's in, what's out, that's easy enough to showcase what those impacts are. If we're going to start doing a bunch of scenarios, that might change Tuesday's ability to get some of those numbers vetted out.
Yeah.
I would say years past I've shown up to 3 scenarios. I don't like to go above 3 because then it starts getting a little confusing about what's in what and what's in not. So
I think the general practice has been, I mean, for us to get your recommendation, and let the board figure that out. But I think that we.
he wants the committee to come to a recommendation to bring that to the full board. I would say prior boards gave a sliding scale that says anywhere like they wanted 0, 1, 2, they wanted 2, 2.5, 3, they wanted just 1%. Like it's essentially up to the committee to say we want 1, 0, like one scenario, 2 scenarios, 3 scenarios that I can present those dynamics. How that impact is to the board, then they can choose essentially at the work session to be fine tuned for the vote.
Talking about the autism support classroom, that's for both of those classrooms are currently slated for 1 teacher, 2 teachers assistants.
Yep.
For most of this year, we've had 1 TA in the autism classroom. Right?
We've had 2, and recently, yes, we've been down to 1. But we started out the year with, we were able to hire 2 and stayed for an extended period of time. But yes, recently we've been, when the person left, we've been unable to hire.
Pretty quickly, right?
The 1 did, and then we were able to hire a second one, but then that one unfortunately left again too.
Just when we're looking at budgets, and I mean, obviously, in a perfect world scenario, we would be able to have that. But in terms of the ratio of staff members, full-time staff members to kids, I just feel like 3 full-time people in, I mean, that's not even in a regular classroom of 24 kids, that's in an 8-student classroom. And I understand that it's learning support and it's a higher level of need, but the ratio is just pretty extreme.
So I would say because of the disability of the classroom and the varying levels of disability, that we wouldn't recommend the 3 personnel unless that's able to run the classroom, especially since some of those TAs do follow the students when they do go out to regular ed to support those. So those 2 in the classroom are not essentially in that classroom all day.
But you haven't been functioning 3.
Yes, that is an unfortunate problem we've been facing having teaching assistants and PCA shortages here, being able to get those even the LPN position we've been struggling to try to get. Yes.
Would we even be able to hire? Because, I mean, what we would have to do from our current standpoint is hire a teacher and 3 TAs over the summer.
Correct.
So I don't even know that is realistic. could we consolidate them into because I believe they're all in a similar grade level span. Could we consolidate them into like a joint classroom, so you've got those 4 adults in the same classroom with the kids?
I would have to defer to Dr.
We've had a lot of these similar discussions with Carolyn. She has a better feel for the exact what's in the IEPs for each of the kids and what their degree of need is. So we could ask her to help us out with more detail on that. But we had these same questions for her when we went through all of our department meetings.
So one of the concerns is that we're not abandoning our responsibility and our mandates
Right.
by talking about, because of this budget issue. In other words, we're meeting that minimum requirement. So it's above and beyond, so we're not jeopardizing the district, we're not jeopardizing the legal ramification, correct? I mean, as we sit right now, we're not in violation, correct?
So right now, the TA would support that classroom. You mean the vacancy we currently have? Yes. So the ones that you cannot go without are PCs. Those are mandated by IEPs. TAs can be mandated by IEPs. In this scenario, I can't answer if the one is supporting the IP and the teachers being able to support the other ones, or without referring to Carolyn and her expertise in that. But she would have told us if we were out of compliance.
Right,
If
so,
that was happening.
so in this consideration, we're not out of compliance of possibly trying to reformat it, try to combine classrooms, try to make it so that we're.
I can request that she could meet here Tuesday to speak more on the matter. I'm just not comfortable if I don't know enough information to advise the board if we can or cannot, or if that's feasible or not.
It'd really be good to have her here, I think.
So,
Because we've asked her, believe me, we nailed these same questions to her, and it wouldn't have made it to this level if it wasn't something that's most likely going to be mandated, but she can give you more specifics as to the rationale why.
So what did you say you're gonna give us on the, baseball softball?
So we have meetings, we've had several meetings, we have another one Friday, to discuss some other, or tomorrow, to discuss some other things, and we're hoping to have at least a recommendation to move forward on items that weren't addressed with, Mrs. Call's, volunteer work. So there's still items we would like to potentially address, whether it's now, or if it's a couple years from now. I think it's something that needs to be addressed, especially in the foul ball scenario, and something kind of got the ball rolling on us to go out to bid and do all that stuff. It's kind of that, how we move forward, if at all.
Long story short, at the end of our meeting this past week, we decided the focus was going to be on the playability of the fields of the surface of the baseball as well as the softball field. There are several issues related to those issues. Allie and Dale McCall have generously are going to be donating everything it's going to take to make that happen, and working in cooperation with our head baseball coach and our facilities people, Victor and team. And after learning a little bit more about the McCall's equipment and expertise and so on, I'm pretty darn confident they're going to really improve that situation. And the feedback from the coaches was that was their number one priority. Dugouts, scoreboards, warning tracks, foul ball situations, pitcher's mound, and so on will be part of that and whatnot. I mean, those are all other considerations that we're looking to scale back because of those quotes that came in way over what we were hoping for. But those are secondary. So I think we're going to improve. I am confident we're going to improve the playability of our playing surfaces for the young ladies and young men that are playing baseball and softball as a result of their efforts. So we are allowing South Penn and other youth leagues for until the end of May, but as of June 1, they're going to go at it full bore.
So Tom, do you keep a list of all of the things that are in the budget, like that were requested because you do the zero base? Is there like a list somewhere of all of the items?
You would, so, the individual departments maintain the list. When they come to us, they've already vetted that list, they've had their notes compiled. We at district office don't go line by line. We would request that from them if that's, but we don't go, we expect them to need that level of expertise, and it's those, we ask questions just like you are to get insight if there's some variability in those. But I don't have that, and I don't go line by line through those requests. They're provided in a secondary spreadsheet that they maintain. We just don't go down that level of detail. We would defer to them to do that with their staff and test that up. The same thing when it's the Dr. Moyer's level. I've vetted that out and then gone up to their level. So the zero base, they get, I believe, 3 months to work through all those problems, and there's reductions. And there's been several times we kick it back to them to go get further reductions or further information or justification for items.
From my end, and this might just be me, they might disagree with me, but I think that it would be helpful for us to understand what's in the budget and be able to justify what's in the budget if we actually know what's in the budget. And I don't think that we know that big picture level unless we're able to see it. Because really all we've ever been brought since I've been on the board is the stuff like that's on the screen. The additions, subtractions, but like, in my opinion, there has to be a ton of stuff that they bring to your level, but apparently it's not even reviewed by district office.
I review the numbers that are in there, and there's
Not the items.
We do not, we defer to their expertise to do those items. For me to go line by line would take an exorbitant amount of time, just like it will for you. I would also advise that the board is a governance level entity that doesn't necessarily get into that level of detail. We provide a high level snapshot to provide the district and for the governance level items that make it through our expertise level. And it funnels down from my level to the principals, and from there to their teacher leaders, and from their teacher leaders to their teachers. So it's been vetted several times when it makes it to us, and we're relying on them to vet that out. Just like you rely on me to vet this out and I present it to the board, and that this information is accurate and up to date and supported. Anything that goes outside of that becomes one of these factors, or if it's an addition to or recommendation outside of the norm, they make it to the board.
So I think if we're just asking the admin pretty targeted questions, we could probably find answers from your all perspective in adjustments or whatever.
So, yep, every department that would sit here, plus a couple that don't attend the board meeting on a regular basis, would be able to defend their budget, just like you're gonna ask Carolyn to defend her autism, or Laura at her capacity levels, or anybody else. They have lived and breathed their budget for many years, and they know what's in now. And like that point that we rely on their trust to move forward, so that we're not spending time on pencil by pencil or paper by paper, to get through those numbers.
I understand that, and it's not out of any type of lack of trust in the staff. But we're, like I said before, the way that this has been presented is we have an expense problem. And there are a lot of expenses in the budget that are continuously outpacing revenue. And that.
But not when the actuals come.
Right, well, but that falls we're the people that have to approve the budget. And it's a hard order to approve the budget when you don't have the details of what's in it.
You're probably not gonna like this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. To nickel and dime, the supplies and the materials that the schools are asking for, there's, very basic things to keep it running. I guess we could do that. But the issues are that this board is inheriting decisions, just like at Gettysburg, of previous boards and previous decisions that were made. The vast majority of the expenses are from contractual obligations that were made by the school board when they negotiated a contract a couple of years ago with the teachers, because, and I think you gave them a nice fair contract because you want to retain good people, and we have a lot of good people here. But they got some nice increases, and now with those promises, you're obligated to provide the resources to make that happen, because that was the promise. This board, with the Act 93 group, also came to a decision last year. There were decisions made years ago about the consolidation, I guess with the smaller numbers, and bringing the schools together, and so on. And with the beautiful renovations and construction project. You're inheriting some of those things. Those are where the expenses are. Those are the big ticket items that you are, in my opinion, and again, we're going through the same thing at Gettysburg as the board member there. Over the past 6 years, we've had 0 tax increases for several years, or a 0.6 average. Luckily, we have Amblebrook, and we had a great windfall that way. This year now, because of those decisions of previous boards, we're going to have to increase millage significantly there. So again, I'm not blaming you all, but what I am saying is we need to take a look at what's happening at the board level and the decisions that are made at the board level. Again, we can really go in and micromanage every pencil and paper and tablet that people are getting, but I just think we got to be careful about that. Our people, compared to over my 40 years in this business, our people here at Littlestown have come in very, very reasonable, comparatively speaking, to what I'm used to. So take that for what it's worth, but there have been promises made through contractual agreements that you all and former boards have made that now you're going to have to deal with it, like it or not.
So maybe we could look at, you guys chime in, 1, a 0, a 1, a 0, 1, 2, 3.
That's the direction that we need. We'll make it happen. You give us the direction that you need, and we'll do our best to make it happen.
And let's let the full board make the decision.
Well, I mean, you need for Tuesday, first.
Correct.
That's not the full board.
And just a reminder, Tuesday, whatever we recommend Tuesday
Our next
is,
finance meeting.
Oh, sorry.
We've got another one in between.
whatever we approve on Tuesday is not, from that until June, it really means almost nothing. It means nothing. It just buys us time to follow the process that we're required to follow by the state.
But I will say, it means a lot to the people, that because the Gettysburg Times or the Gettysburg Connection, like they did with Gettysburg School District raising taxes 4.5% or whatever it was.
Yeah, I get it.
So it means a lot to our constituents to have an accurate picture of what's going to happen.
I agree.
So you'll have Carol in there?
I don't know if she's available, but we'll request it. If she's available to attend.
And if not available, we'll have her provide the documentation for that.
We could do the same if we want, with Jeff for an athletics. I know he was probably slated to do stuff on Monday, the work session that he always presents for Verizon information. We could request him to come early to present it early if that's what, because that's what I have. So Tuesday, I have, just to recap, right now between Stephen and Jean, we have Howie going down to 2 months, and everything else basically out, that's shown out. We have, I believe, 70% of the state is going to be projected forward, and then we're looking at, I didn't hear a second, I guess, on the scenarios of 0, 1, 2, and 3 to go Tuesday, and then another opportunity for the finance committee to then fine tune it again. I'm just looking, I see ahead of my phone, assuming that's good. We'll showcase these 4 options and move forward. Anything else, Jeannie? I will get you this new information. How many years of actuals and budgets would you like to see?
I don't know if I need to see budgets, like
Just actuals.
Right, yeah, like 3 years.
3 years of actuals? Yep.
Like, what is anybody else?
Then do 3 years of the actuals, last year's budget, and this year's budget. That should be fine.
Yep. So it's similar to the exact same I provided about 2 months ago that I provided. I just have updated information. If there's any other information you have, you want to showcase, you thought about something, send Dr. Moore and I a scenario that and address that at Tuesday's meeting. Like I said, I won't have some of this grand in-depth. They're going to look more at a high-level view because we kind of narrowed some of those down through discussions. And we'll have some athletics, I think some grant work, I think information, and I'm trying to file that up to update the board on that.
I would just try to make sure, because you were kind of lower there too, right?
I have the capacity levels on the buses that I'm going to get that answer. Is there additional items? Because that won't take very long for a capacity level on the buses. We can have a printout that provide that shows each bus with each kids AM and PM.
I think for her to explain the rationale for the decrease would be nice. Just so that we have all relevant stakeholders here and ready to give explanation.
Okay. Unless there's any other discussion that needs to be had or questions or.
I'd like to request just very briefly afterwards, an executive session to discuss our real estate matter.
I guess you want to announce that.
I should announce that. Okay, you have the actual version. It is.
We
The
can.
board will meet in executive session post adjournment to discuss a matter involving real estate.
Yeah.
We can provide additional at the next session. If
There's
needed.
2 meetings.
Yes.
Yes, at the next, I think, yes, on Tuesday.
Thank you.
With that, I give a motion to adjourn.
I got a motion on the floor.
Can I raise a concern real quick before citing us an official sunshine violation? All the tabular documents that you guys have reviewed, it's really hard to follow along, so Sunshine Act allows you to be able to review documents, to be able to like follow along because they weren't on the screen. Is there a chance that they could be published as an update from a follow-up perspective?
Yeah, they'll be posted tomorrow.
He said that earlier that he was gonna.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
post them tomorrow. I just didn't have time to get them.
That's okay.
For the agenda to be posted in 24 hours.
There's just too many line items. It's hard to follow along.
Technical difficulties. They actually-
Okay.
So-
Appreciate
No
it.
sunshine violations.
Yeah, there is no sunshine.
Yeah, I didn't file. I was like, before I do, like, can I comment? So thank you. Appreciate it.
We're adjourned.